Today I'm going to share with you my free crochet farmyard animal patterns. I'm going to do it in two sections for you, not like formal sections, two casual sections. The amigurumi are either going to fall into the category of like traditional livestock farm animals or things you find on the farm or ranch. Obviously it's going to have a slight slant to where I come from, which is England, so maybe some of the farm animals that you see will be things that you have never seen before in your life, and possibly some of the things that you see will be things that are super normal to you and I get very excited about. Like one of the cows. I'm quite excited about that cow. Everything that I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to pop a link down in the description box under the video to show you where to find all of my free patterns, and I'll do little timestamps for when I talk about each of the different types of animals as well. So let's start off with one of my favourite ones. This is my little amigurumi goat. I really love this pattern because I think it gives off quite a lot of the attitude that the goats actually have, and I did a few things to make it sort of have a bit more of that goat-like charisma. So this little goat has got this lovely beard, and that is just a chain with single crochets made into it that I've sewn onto the bottom of his chin there, and it hangs down for him in obviously a lovely little beard. He's got some tiny little horns. I used a patch of I think that's just a simple chain to highlight the insides of the ears there, to make them pop out a bit more. I normally go for slightly sort of over the top caricature eyes for cuteness factor, but for this one I really wanted to have that nice sort of goat size eye there. He's got his tiny little stub of a tail at the end, nice simple colour changes, and a great sort of one-day project for someone who is experienced with amigurumi. Hopefully you'll find the pattern totally beginner friendly either way. So that's my goat. The next one on the totally opposite end of the size scale is my Highland cow. Of all the things that I have made, I think this has probably got the most compliments from people who've seen it in real life. It is also, I think, currently the top pattern on the Lucy Kate Crochet website. I super love this one. I have talked about it in a video before, you may have seen, but probably not. I made him in a couple of different stages. To begin with, I gave him just a little bit of a hairy section on the top there, but I padded it out a bit, really sort of to add to it a bit more. I put in a different colour yarn as well to highlight the fur there, and I went in the opposite direction of a caricature for this one with the eyes, and I made them smaller so that it looked like they were just peeking out from underneath his hair, which I thought was quite cute. I was really pleased with the ears as well, just a few sort of hand sewn stitches there, got those to be pointing in a nice position for us, so that was pretty cool. I love him. Do you like him? Do you like... I'm sure I've asked this question before. I might have even had a whole video asking this question before, but look, I mean the scale difference, right, is a bit crazy. That's the one goat and that's the Highland cow, and it's like miles apart, but they both came out of my brain. Fun times. Next up we have Mr. Llama, and Mr. Llama is another of the smaller size amigurumi patterns. He's got his little eyes as well. This is one of the first toys that I crocheted using the technique which someone so kindly just pointed out to me in the comments that had somehow passed me by for a decade. We just tie the backs of the safety eyes together and inset them to give them this sort of much more, I was going to say human, and that is not the right word, give them that much more realistic sort of expression with the cheeks puffing out a bit there. He's got a tiny flop of hair on top, and I was very careful with the slope of the neck for this one to make it really nice and balanced so that it could still stand up even though most of the weight is forwards. But yeah, so we've got a little bit of back loop only crochet there on the feet to help them to be defined, but again, totally beginner friendly, I think. Have a look, let me know, but yeah, there you go, that's Crochet Llama, that's the third one. Our next friend inevitably had to be the llama's best friend, and that is the alpaca. And the alpaca I actually made before I made the llama. I then made the llama subsequently because people kept on calling my alpaca a llama. It's not, it's an alpaca. Different proportions. I mean, obviously this feeds back really well across a crochet toy, right? Again, really important to me was trying to make this so that it balanced and sat up nicely in the hand or on the shelf, depending on sort of wherever you want to display it. But again, I did a bit of back loop only for these feet to flatten them off. And he's got his eyes set much further forwards in the face, which gives, I think, quite a little cute expression. These curls all over the alpaca are made just by single crocheting into chains, and it naturally loops. Just exaggerate that by wiggling it a bit with your fingers and then sew it in at intervals onto the head and the body, and it gives this really nice woolly effect. So that's the alpaca. Texas Longhorn. Longhorns, right? So this one I'm a little bit mad for. So I've always been very into animals, and there are certain animals that you simply don't get in this country, in the UK, and Texas Longhorns are one of them that I've never seen in person. And I really wanted to make like a fun caricature of one based slightly off the ideas of the Highland Cow pattern. He needed a little bit of plumping up when I picked him up, because he sleeps in my son's bed and was entirely flat, and the horns had gone at some quite jaunty angles. I was really pleased with how I got the impact of the sort of the pattern of the Texas Longhorn without making something that was going to be far too laborious for anyone wanting to actually use the pattern. And I simply just reversed the colours and threaded the yarn onto the needle. So I used this grey to go over a couple of stitches randomly around the face, and then the brown back onto the grey body and legs, and it gives it this nice sort of flecked mottling there without it being really too difficult to do at all. So it follows the same sort of basis of as the Highland Cow, but you can see the end product, the end toy, is really quite different, which is pretty cool. Which one do you like best? This is generally more popular. I think it's because of the hair, but I like this better. I think this is more like an actual cow than a cutesy cow. Thoughts? Interested to hear? So there we go. So now on our farm we have two different breeds of cows, a goat, an alpaca and a llama. So strong start. So we're going to dip into the local wildlife of the farm for a minute now, and the next one is my red squirrel. Now this, oh my goodness, did it give me a lot of grief, this red squirrel, in terms of getting the tail right for it. I'd heard repeatedly and seen tutorials that you could brush yarn and it would make this lovely fluffed up effect, but I did not have the right kind of brush. I in fact tried to use a plastic doll's brush. It didn't work out particularly well for me, but I think the overall sort of design of the squirrel came across really cutely, and it's a lovely sort of little local wild animal. I mean, not particularly local to here anymore because grey squirrels completely outcompeted them, but you know, unwanted science lesson. But yeah, so there's the cute little squirrel to live in the trees at your farm. And then of course I had to add this. Now, you've got two choices when it comes to free bunny patterns from my site, and one of them is this one that I made super long time ago. I don't know what happened to the actual toy I made with it. It's probably in a box somewhere. But yeah, so there's a sort of classic toy bunny style rabbit there with the nice sort of cute variegated yarn and a bit of a vintage feel. And then we have one that I made so recently, like day before yesterday, and that is very much my classic wild rabbit. I used this lovely trick with pulling in the eyes to give them sort of more depth, and I tied the nose together with the inside of the ears by using the same colour, and I had ordered myself a slicker brush and gave it the lovely classic fluffy bunny tail as well. I made the legs in a slightly unconventional way, at least for me. I don't know, do other people do this? Tell me if they do. I try not to look at other people's toy patterns these days because I don't want to be unintentionally influenced by other people's designs, and I like things to be just out of my own brain and not out of someone else's brain. But so what I did was I made the front legs just a magic circle and then 2 into each, and then just standard increases, and then I made the back feet in the same way, but I made a half increased row, flipped it around and single crocheted again for half of it as the foot section, and then slotted that in to some standard increases, single crochet row, and standard decreases for these back parts at the thigh. And I think that it's really come up with something that looks quite a lot more like the bunny rabbit's back legs than I've done before. So that was pretty fun. One of my more notorious for its very Marmite responses, you know, like the whole love it or hate it thing, is my fox. It's a great beginner pattern, I think. It has got some colour changes, but they're dead straightforward. And the whole front chest, rather than you having to learn how to swap backwards and forwards with your yarns, I just did it as a separate crocheted plate that goes over the top. Same for the inserts on the ears. And then it's got the detailing here with just a little bit of surface crochet, which again, I've got a tutorial for if it's not something you've done before. And then of course that classic little fox tip to the tail. So all of these are hand sewn together. I do make all of my designs in parts and then hand sew them together. Again, I've got a tutorial for how to do that if it's not something you're familiar with. I know that some people are kind of psyched out by hand sewing if they're like, no, I'm doing crocheting and I'm not a sewer. I'm not a sewer. I'm really not. I don't know the sewy words. That's why I made a video showing how I do the sewing. But it's one of those things when once you've done it, you'll be cool. You'll be able to do it, don't worry. Next, we have got my goose. This goose was such a challenge for me. I made it because a friend asked if I could make a goose, and I had so many false starts. I don't think I've ever had so many false starts with a crochet project that I didn't just give up on. But I was really pleased with how it came out at the end. I don't have it here because obviously I sent it to him. But it's using this nice sort of grey yarn, and it, as it turned out in the end, really straightforward increases and decreases pattern. He's got the little feet there. And Goose, obviously, a farmyard classic. I was distracted mid-sentence because I suddenly decided that I need to make a chicken because I've not made a chicken before. So now I probably need to go and make a chicken, but I'm going to tell you the last couple of things first. The next one is the pig. It's generally well received, this pig. It was one of the first things that I designed, and I think you can see that it's very sort of simple shapes, but as a result, it is so easy to make, really easy to follow as instructions go. It attaches up in a very straightforward way, and it looks like a pig, I think. You know, I mean, a bit of a cartoony pig. That's actually how I draw a pig, is how that pig looks. But yeah, so a pig, I mean, you can't have a farmyard without a pig, right? And finally, my favourite, my scruffy sheep. Now that sheep has the same curly woolly hair as the alpaca does, and it's actually the one I made the first. It's where the idea for the alpaca came from. But there's something a little bit charming about it. I designed it so that it's positioned as though it's grazing with its head slightly down. Sheep are one of my favourite farmyard animals. And sheep just have these wonderful characters, much like goats. They are so charming and so fun, and they are not this clean-cut cloud-like thing that so many people have an image of in their heads, and I really wanted this sheep to give off much more raw sheepness than other sheep that I'd seen before. So there you go, that's my farmyard animal patterns for you. I really hope that you enjoyed them. I'd love to hear which ones you like the best, and particularly which style you prefer following and crocheting along with. Do you like the big chunky ones? Are you more of a fan of the do you like the big chunky ones? Are you more a fan of the small, sort of tighter stitched ones? Do you like lots of detail and lots of colour? Do you prefer muted back? Things that you can make quickly? Tell me, I love to hear, and it's really helpful when I'm thinking of my next designs to give to you guys as well, to know what kind of things you want to see. So yeah, what other farmyard animals should I make as well? I'm definitely going to do a chicken, and I think I'm going to do a more realistic pig. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll chat to you down in the comments section below, and don't forget that you can find all of these patterns completely for free on my website. Happy crocheting!